fiercely pursuing accountability on policy and implementation. It's time for another DJ Elf 7 candidate interview.
Hey, what's up? It's your boy DJ Elf 7. As you know, I'm interviewing every candidate running for office. Here I have actually one of the candidates running for office right here. He's actually quite interesting. Tell him about yourself. What's your story?
Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Pan, and I am a candidate for Comptroller of New York City. I'm the youngest person, I believe, to ever make a citywide primary ballot, or ballot in general. And I'm really excited to be here with you guys today. I'm also the youngest candidate in the race.
Okay. Being a young candidate could be seen as a liability or an asset, depending. I think most people would see it as a liability. So, most people would say without experience, how can you really overcome the challenges or know or recognize what you're facing? What's your response to that?
So my response is, personally, my first job was at 15, being a groundskeeper at Rutgers Houses, a New York City Housing Authority building on the Lower East Side, right in Two Bridges. So that was my first job, right on the ground.
Okay, how'd you get that job? Did you live in public housing?
No, I didn't live in public housing. I grew up in Queens. My high school was nearby, and I got matched with it through the Summer Youth Employment Program, SYEP. So when all the other candidates are talking about SYEP, this, and student programs, I'm here like, that was my first job.
I know I know several students came through the SYEP program. It's a solid program, and I think that's actually an example of a program that I actually think works pretty well. That's just in my opinion, and watch some crazy stuff gets uncovered later. Yeah, but I do think it's a pilot program. I've seen a lot of young, budding, enterprising people, come from that program. So you come from a good crowd, yeah? That's cool, man. Okay. So you worked in the housing projects. What'd you do there again?
I was a groundskeeper. So I was, I remember picking up needles off of playgrounds, picking up condoms off of the parking lot, and just getting a lay of the land, whether it's underneath the projects and what the other groundskeepers are really doing, getting an experience.
It's interesting that you said that you're running for comptroller. Comptroller is really kind of like a someone who's going to be running maybe like financial checks on the system, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So why comptroller? Why not mayor or something like that? Or maybe, why comptroller? That's an interesting position.
First of all, going for a big position like mayor, comptroller is also really big as a citywide position, but it's such a crowded field, and I think here we have something that we can uniquely stand out with, holding the government accountable. It takes more being from a place where the system you're living in every single day, and it's not some sort of novelty idea to you. This is my life.
Okay.
And to keep the government accountable for it.
Some challenging questions will be coming up later on regarding how you're going to tend to that. So we're going to see how that goes in a moment. But right now, I know we talked about some of this earlier, but, I do appreciate another chance to do it fresh, in one interview. So I do have a bunch of political partners that I work with, and I want to put them first. So let's talk about it right quick. Do you support freeing Julian Assange?
Like I said, I remember speaking about it previously, but right now I still do not have enough information to give an opinion on that.
Sure, that was just a couple hours ago, so don't give him a hard time. It's not like he didn't care, okay, folks? Yeah? We're just rescheduled, just because of some timing issues. Now, but the Assange issue, like I said before, once again, he did not actually do the stealing of the data or whatever they want to say. He just published it just like the New York Times. He's being punished for, reporting on crimes that our government is perpetrating across the world, humanitarian crimes, killing civilians, press, journalists, things like that are getting in their way. And, as a personal survivor of the, Korean War, I didn't actually go through it, but I ran away from home at the age of 16, mainly because of the violence that I think that affected my family. So it's pretty personal for me, whatever, but it's all right though. We got to move on. That's just how life goes. So we take a look at, these, groups. What is it? I'm sorry. Give me a second.
No worries.
Just going back into that, living back on the streets just takes me out of the game for a moment. But let me just return to the questions. Yeah. So the thing is that we're talking about like your decision to run for comptroller, things like that. Yeah. And so you see that the city has a need. How will the comptroller? What will you do to like really fix those things? You said like take care of the corruption, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how do you understand corruption?
I think I understand corruption as listening to special interests that don't align with the public's needs. So if I put a contracting firm that had major campaign contributions to my own campaign above the fact that we are ballooning our city's debt and it's going to impact my generation down the road.
What
So
is causing the debt to balloon? What do you think?
I think the biggest costs are really usually it's payroll, and it's also outsourcing a lot of labor to contracting and consulting companies when really a lot of it could potentially be done in-house, and also in paying things like arbitration costs for the NYPD on certain cases, and just there's just so much. The list goes on and on and on.
Yeah, I've heard of that argument before. So is that that's interesting. Would you say that maybe that position was influenced by Andrew Yang? Do you see Andrew Yang as maybe a inspirational figure in any way?
I think as a Chinese Taiwanese American growing up in the city, I think I look up to him and the way he's moving around in politics. I find that really inspirational. To see a guy with my skin being able to run for a position like this and be a front runner, I don't know, it's inspirational to me. But I think policy-wise, I like a lot of his more innovative ideas. Like I remember an idea about like vaccinations through an ice cream truck, and like ideas like that, and utilizing bars and local establishments to pump
I think
money
he has good
like that.
ideas, but I wouldn't say vaccinations out of the ice cream truck was one of the best ones. But why?
Yeah,
Why the vaccination in the ice cream truck? That's a weird pairing right there. Why is that a good? Why is that a particular attractive idea right there?
I think it's really interesting in terms of like mobility. So like the mobile COVID test clinics that I've seen popping around. I remember getting 2 tests done myself there, and just increasing mobility to certain neighborhoods where clinics and medical access isn't as available, and
Right.
also people are wary about healthcare. So I think it's just a really interesting concept. I wish it'd be developed more. So
Another
I,
idea why that's cool, right? Is the thing is that first of all, people might say, for instance, right, it's weird to tie ice cream, which is sweet, right, with pain, which is weird, right? But then we remember that sometimes the vaccines need to be refrigerated, right? So if you have an ice cream truck, it may be able to attend to those issues. So there may be other reasons going on, right, as in terms of like why ice cream trucks might be used in a smart way, right? Yeah, versus just people's first reaction, like, what the a vaccine's an ice cream truck, what the hell are you thinking? You know what I mean? You're trying to lure the kids with the ice cream and stab them with the needle and say you're vaccinated. People will take it all kinds of weird ways, right? Yeah, I did like some of Andrew Yang's ideas. Some of the best ones I liked were like democracy dollars. I don't know if you're familiar with that idea, but some other ones, yeah. So I was a fan as well. That's changed, but that's okay. I do see him as inspirational in the way that I'd never believed that an Asian American would go as far as he did. So as far or could make it that far. So props to him, and props to my Taiwanese people. You know what I mean? I love Taiwanese people. They're the coolest. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yo.
Yeah.
Taiwanese ladies, oh my god damn, yo, that's not even right, man. It's not even right what y'all doing, yeah? I'm not even mad at that, though, yeah? Y'all ladies are super beautiful out there. Much love out to the Taiwanese out there, yeah? And my bros are the coolest, honestly, yeah? All right, anyways, yeah, so I love hanging with the Taiwanese. They're a cool set. Let's take a look let's move on to talk just about, I'm sorry, we were talking about the Assange thing. I got a little bit redirected. I'll probably edit it together, yeah? Let's move on to the next topic right there. Let's talk about UBI. Do you support UBI?
Oh yeah, I'm a big supporter of UBI. I used to be pretty darn against it. I thought it was communism. And later on, after reading more about it and educating myself, I'm actually quite a big supporter of it by lowering administrative costs and reinvesting that back into our communities and boosting our local economies. So I like it.
That's interesting that you have this type of a budget-minded approach. That's cool. Some people don't really think that far, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
I am running for controller.
Yeah. Have you ever managed a business or like budgets or stuff like that?
I mean, right now I'm managing my campaign's budget. It's not particularly huge, but I mean, I do have to file disclosures with the campaign finance board and things like that.
Yeah.
And I've taken care of my personal finances.
Now, I just want to say something out there to the people that, you might be like, yo, Ed, why are you spending time with a candidate like this, right? The thing is that in the end, right, his experience, whatever, the thing is that in the end, right, it's really about the integrity, what comes from the heart. You know what I mean? Like, you're either going to make the honest decision or not, right? Yeah? As the head comptroller, he could always hire someone to do and probably will be done by people underneath him, but it needs the vision, it needs the plan, it needs someone to stick to the principles, and not bow into the interests. So I like a lot of what you're saying, and honestly, when we take a look at someone with experience, right, sometimes that experience can be in the wrong direction. It could be experience as in terms of how to cook the books, experience as in terms of how to hook up their buddies, experience as in terms of how to get around, right, policies and procedures. So experience can be a double-edged sword, right? Yeah, it could be a powerful good thing. Oh, damn, it could be a powerful negative thing too. So don't let that be a reason, right, to write off a candidate like this. That's just what I want to throw out there, okay?
I couldn't have said it better than you just said, Ed.
I appreciate it, man. That comes from experience too, yeah? Like seeing different people work out and seeing people with experience sometimes disappointing ways and seeing fresh faces, excel and, do amazing things. So I hope that's going to be you. We'll see, yeah?
Thank you.
Okay. I also know that people like yourself are also huge targets for establishment cronies to sweep in and try to take you under their wing. Anybody who starts to be on an upward trajectory, they sweep in and, try to promise you the world, and they start taking care of you, and oh man, it's so ugly, yeah? But being Asian American male, they probably not showing up for a long time, bro. I'll be real with you, yeah? That's actually a good thing. Yeah, that's actually a good thing. It allows our community to stay clean in a lot of ways that other communities struggle with deeply, yeah? Anyways, yeah, enough of my protesting on that. Let's get to the disabled. Disabled community, right? People who are disabled. Right now, we know that minimum wage is kind of like a subsistence wage. You could barely pay your rent and for food and stuff. But people with disabilities are allowed to be paid less than minimum wage. Would you support minimum wage for people with disabilities?
I support that 100%. Everybody needs to eat, needs a place to live, and needs to be clothed, and that does not differ for people with disabilities. And we need to make sure that our disabled New Yorkers and New Yorkers who need accommodations get paid the same minimum wage as everybody else.
Okay. So how can we actually address, right? Some people have suggested different possible solutions, maybe like a stipend for businesses due to like maybe lost productivity or things like that. That could come out of the budget, right? Yeah. Now you're trying to balance the books. What type of solutions do you see as feasible for really, we could say, right? Yeah. People should take care of handicapped people, but in the end, right, what really happens to them matters. So how can we assure them, really some type of a chance to live with decency?
Mm-hmm. I think a big thing is going to be financially supporting our small businesses and making sure that they can afford to pay their workers with disabilities that minimum wage. So whether it's a stipend program, while it might be financial loans. Whatever we do, we will be pumping money there because at the end of the day, by making sure that all New Yorkers with disabilities included are healthy, housed, safe, and by making sure that they're financially stable and able to afford to live in our city, it reduces the amount of money that we have to spend on welfare in other forms of governmental support. And why not guarantee somebody the dignity of living?
Yeah.
And also making sure that we're also financially benefiting as a city.
They're going to have to pay one way or another. Yeah, those people are going to have to live one way or another. So we could pay through it through, giving them an honest job, or we could pay through it I like that idea, yeah. So that's cool, man. That makes sense to me. All right, let's move on to talk about the trans community. Yeah, a community that often is highly discriminated against, and being, I'm really a homeless advocate, and sometimes when I see trans people moving through the system, I'm like, damn, it's a tough road for them. So the thing is that when these people were trans, sometimes they end up in public housing, right? Because they can't afford to pay rent, because they're discriminated against job, blah, blah, blah. And then when they try to access the services at public housing, what they find is that, that discrimination they face there, sometimes undocumented, sometimes hard to really, identify who's the perpetrator, ends up, making them feel unwelcome. They end up moving out of public housing. And this is actually kind of like a denial of service to that community. How can we look out for this community? You have any, there's no law saying that you're allowed to, go against these people. But despite that, the community still finds a way. How can we fix this?
I think that by using the Comptroller's economically targeted investments, we're looking to create more public housing and affordable housing units. So if there is a lot of explicit interest from the trans community in housing that is more targeted for their community, then I'm more than fine with designating it like that and making sure that they are safe and comfortable
Yeah.
in living in that situation.
Yeah, the public housing, the shape of public housing here in New York City is actually quite a rocky one, with them actually selling property and selling property to weird companies and stuff. So, and they're having like hard time paying for repairs and stuff. So, as in terms of increasing public housing, I think that will be difficult considering the way things are directing. But with the change in policy, who knows, right? Yeah, we could always redirect money from different places into the system. So we'll have to, and I think it's a critical time right now, especially in COVID and people being evicted. So we'll have to see how that works. But it's good to know your position on that. Okay. Now I'm going to ask about some questions that are just the general populace would probably want to know about. Okay. So let's talk about reopening. Yeah, people want to know, when's my life going back to normal? If you're in office, right, what kind of vision are you putting forward for reopening?
First of all, I think it's really important that New Yorkers get vaccinated. That's the only way that we're going to be able to reopen safely and completely. Hopefully, with President Biden's initiatives and the fact that now every American is free to go get vaccinated, hopefully by the fall of 2021, we are able to fully reopen with herd immunity. I remember Dr. Fauci saying that herd immunity is around, you can correct me if I'm wrong, of course, around like 60, 70%-ish, probably a little higher than there, give or take. But once we hit herd immunity, then we can confidently reopen our municipal office buildings, our businesses, and make sure that people can go back to work and have their jobs as usual. And also, we have to make sure that we are mandating that. I remember the CEO of Pfizer said that you will probably need to get booster shots every single year. And people are getting those vaccinations and getting them updated every single year.
See, okay, I get what you're saying, but to tell you the truth, I have kind of like a different take on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the thing is that, look, Fauci has been shown to be lying several times, right? And the thing is that when we take a look at the vaccinations, like when they say that they got to buy them every year, we look at the way that the health industry like over prescribed opioids because it was a commercial interest to do so. You get what I mean? And we look at this rush out this vaccine, and they said everything's fine, and now we see Johnson and Johnson, right? Blood clots and stuff. There may be a rush to get into this stuff for the money. You get what I mean? So the vaccination, maybe the key to reopening. But what about mandatory There's a lot of people who are uncomfortable with vaccinations. So some people say that, like, to re-enter certain parts of society, right, you may be required to get a vaccination. What do you feel about that? Maybe for public school, they need to have vaccination. Maybe to work in the health field, they'll need to be required to have vaccination, right? To what extent do you support mandatory vaccination?
I think that, so in terms of mandatory vaccinations, ideally, we wouldn't have to mandate it. People would naturally want to just go get it and have faith in the system. But however, we do have instances where our government in our past history has a history of lying and taking advantage of peoples of color by, in a case like this is the fastest that I believe a vaccine has been rushed for something like this. And this is emergency authorization, and things could go wrong. I don't think anybody's saying that it can't. And quite frankly, even with the CEO of Pfizer saying 12 months, that number could change anytime, the same way how quarantine used to be recommended for 14 days,
Exactly,
and now it's
right?
CDC.
Yeah, it's always
recommended
changing
10.
so much, right? Yeah, like people are confused and uncomfortable.
Yeah,
So, like
perfectly
just to address
understand.
their issues as well, right? A lot of people don't want to get vaccinated and they're like, hell
Yeah.
no, right? And some people are for it. So there is it's a quite strong theme that I talk with these candidates about at what level we're going to force vaccinations, right? A lot of people are interested, right? Under this new thing, am I going to have to go get a shot or not? You know what I mean? Most people that I know, honestly, maybe you could share it for me, but most people I know say they're going to wait, and if they're forced to get one, they will get one. They're not really going to fight it, but they're not rushing to get it. I do know a significant people that got it too. I'd say it was about 50-50, honestly. What's your personal experience as just someone living in New York? Everybody got vaccinated, 80%, 20, yeah.
So I personally, I got my shot, my first Pfizer dose a couple of weeks ago, and I am getting my second vaccine dose this Friday.
Okay.
So
How
I'm
many
quite
friends and
excited.
family got vaccinated? Like most of them,
Um,
half of them?
so
They don't really talk about it?
I believe none of them have. I remember my mother talking about how she had walked in on a conversation once, and this group of people, none of them were intending on getting vaccinated just yet, and they were doing exactly what you said and waiting and listening.
Yeah.
And my thing is that I'm young and healthy, and quite frankly, it's supposed to have the largest immune response on young people like me and healthier people like I hope like yourself, Ed, because our immune systems are healthier than our elderly counterparts. So
What?
this is
Yeah.
all really.
What gives you faith in the system when this system has destroyed your generation's finances, future wealth, environment, right? Yeah. What gives you faith in
Yeah.
the system this time?
I think that the big thing is that same reason why I would ever run for office in the first place. I love my family. I love my friends. The thought that I'd be taking a risk on something that I didn't develop myself, someone's putting something in my arm, but the risks that I'm taking of getting sick, catching a fever, or some sort of adverse side effect, I'm taking it because I want to protect my community. It's not about protecting myself from COVID. It's about protecting my family, my elderly grandmother and grandfather.
I respect that. I respect that. Yeah. Okay, that's
Mhm.
cool, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. So, I think that's a responsible thing to do, and that makes sense to me. So I appreciate you. Yeah. Thank you. All right, but yeah, it's interesting to see that there's so many people on the other side of that too. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
right, because our job is to make sure everybody's concerns are addressed. Let's
100%.
Yeah. Let's take a look at education reform. Yeah. There's all this talk about SHSAT, GNT, gifted and talented. What's your take on that position?
So in terms of SHSAT, I think that we would be better off looking at a more holistic way to approach specialized high school admissions. You look at the statistics. I remember it was my senior year of high school, and what was going off in the news, or in my junior year. I remember looking at the New York Times, and it was looking at the disproportionate amount of Black and brown students, African Americans, admitted into Stuyvesant High School, and compared to the rest of the incoming class. And while there's an argument that there's test scores involved and such, SHSAT prep is extremely expensive. What about people who do not have the financial resources to afford it like that? I didn't. I took the test without any sort of preparation, and I did not get into any of the schools that I tried getting into. And there are plenty of the New Yorkers, no matter your skin tone, that have that same experience. So how could we make sure that we are not trying to filter in students who are learning topics that are way beyond, quite frankly, what they've been mandated to learn in middle school? And we're looking at their grades, we're looking at their involvement, we're looking at their passions, and we're matching that holistically. Who you are is the entire package deal, and how you fit into the education system, and using that as admissions. In terms of gifted and talented, you are picking out children from a really young age to go in there. I remember, I believe I got into a gifted and talented program. However, my family didn't have the means and just didn't know how to transport me to the school where that program was being held. So I ultimately didn't. And I remember getting thrown into ESL, English as a second language classes, even though I was perfectly fine. So
Because you
I
look a
don't think
certain
that
way? Oh my God, that's disgusting. What the Are you
I
serious? Were you
I
born
quite
here?
frankly don't.
Yeah.
I was born here, yes.
And
And
they stuck you in ESL class?
I'd like to think I'm pretty darn fluent.
What the fuck? Are you serious? Oh my God. Tell me
I
that's not
I
some
don't
racist shit. Holy fuck. Are you serious?
I don't
What
remember the
hell?
full story on that one.
God damn.
I was only a little kid, and quite frankly, I still don't know the full story on that. So I'm not going to jump to any assumptions or anything. But just to say that the gifted and talented program is not perfect in any sort of means, and I think that we shouldn't be trying to box young kids into that and assume that they're gifted or they're not gifted or whatever.
I feel you on that. Like, the thing is that, right, look, I've been in gifted and talented programs. I was, like, in a lot of those things. And I do agree that oh, shit, I got a call. Give me a second. I'm sorry, give me a second, yeah? I'll be right there. Sorry, I'm running late. I'll be right there. Sorry, yeah? Okay? Hello?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Whatever, yeah. Anyways, yeah, so like I was saying, yeah, so, I get what you're saying, and I do believe, like you said, like that. I believe that black and brown people are underrepresented in some of these programs. Like, in fact, many of these programs, right? And I think that a lot of times these gifted and talented programs, they start at this so stupid young age, right? Yeah. Which there is some like a good thing to having like those programs available for all students, not necessarily just gifted and talented. But there are some aspects to it. But one of the problems is that to a certain extent, being gifted and talented becomes a status symbol for the parents. You know what I mean? And you'll notice that a lot of like people who are wealthy, their kids, right or wrong, just tend to like get into those programs, right? Yeah, because they're in the right neighborhood, know the right people, talk to people, make cases. It's all this kind of shenanigans, yeah?
Yeah.
And I agree that black people and brown people are underrepresented in the system, but let me actually take it from another angle, which is kind of like, because I've also been an Asian American advocate for a long time. I'm 45. Not that it makes me better in any ways, right? In some ways, but when we look at the Asian American experience, right, and we take a look at like institutions like Harvard and Yale and stuff, that traditionally what they use to discriminate against us are, oh, you're not like leadership material, you don't seem to have good social skills. They just make up some fucking bullshit like putting you in ESL, even you're fucking bored here. Someone deserves to get smacked right the fuck now. Anyways, yeah. So that's traditionally how they discriminated against us. So that's why we are so eager for that exam, because even though yes. Do our parents speak English like 18th century English? Do we have discussions at the fucking dinner table about Moby Dick and about fucking Charles Dickens? No, we don't. You know what I mean? But we learned that shit anyways because that's the only fucking chance we have to get even close to a fucking fair shot, because there's no fucking way that the teacher's going to say, I'm promoting this Asian American kid over all these other kids that I have more of a reason to feel like they want of mine, but this Asian American kid, he not one of mine. He wanted they got it easy anyways. Shit, you know what I mean? So how will we get, right? I feel you as from bringing those other factors, but when those factors have traditionally been used to discriminate against our people, what do we do about that? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I completely understand that, and I think that it's more about equity. I think that there's a huge emphasis on test prep. I remember growing up, a lot of my other Asian American friends, they were doling out money, even though their families weren't from a very wealthy economic background, into prep, because that was in culture, historical Asian culture. Education was your route to social mobility and to the government, which is stable and well-paying.
Yeah.
So I think even with that argument, testing, even if we wanted to do that, it shouldn't be that if you are from a economic background where you have to put a huge amount of your income towards test prep so that your kids can have a shot at making it to the top. Why not just make it so that either we get rid of that standard and we say, we're not rewarding through paying thousands of dollars for prep and tutoring spots into these selective schools, and rather saying that you learn what you have to learn in middle school and you get rewarded for that with your progress in middle school, and using that same standard and applying that across the board. Or you can just say, let's make sure that equitable, fair prep is available to everyone in all middle schools, or do something so that everybody has the same equitable access to it.
So I want to really get your position solidified here. It sounds like your SAT position might not be for a total destruction of it, right, or dismembering of it, but to actually have other factors come into play. Are you actually calling for the complete dismantleization of the SHSAT completely and using other forms, or are you using a mix, or do you want to just continue with the SHSAT? I mean, clearly it seems like SHSAT isn't enough, right? Yeah. So do you want to use a mixed system, or do you want to use or get rid of SHSAT?
If I remember correctly, the SHSAT system costs about $10 million to administer. And I think from a financial standpoint, I mean, I am running to be comptroller. I think that getting rid of it and opting in for a more holistic system, instead of saying, let's start paying to teach students things that they would learn in high school and middle school, which kind of defeats the purpose in a way of certain classes in high school. Instead of doing that, then just get rid of it and save the financial costs.
Are you saying that a holistic approach would be cheaper than a testing approach?
I think that, of course, payroll and personnel would probably play into it, but it really does depend. I can't guarantee that it would be completely cheaper. However, it would be cheaper than a more equitable approach where on top of that $10 million you're currently paying to administer it, you are now paying for additional government programs.
Right. Okay, that makes sense then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why like it's like doing double duty? I guess what you're saying,
Yeah.
right? You're paying twice
You're
for it,
paying.
and that kind of makes sense. Okay, that's cool. Okay, I could dig that. Yeah, and you get a more comprehensive system. So I guess it makes sense. Yeah. Right. Okay. Cool, man. All right. So let's talk about police reform. Let's talk about defund the police, right? All this other kind of crazy business, right? Yeah. What's your thought about how would you structure police reform, or what's your thoughts on that?
So I think defund the police. I support the ideas and the rationale, and quite frankly, the policy behind defund the police.
Okay.
I think just from a marketing standpoint, when you say defund the police, nationally and citywide, I believe a poll came out. Only 11% of New York City supports defund the police. And even reform the police has difficulty gaining traction like that. And when we talk about reform and we talk about defunding, it's really the response it triggers instantly in people's heads. And what we want people to do is to look at the policies, to look at the logic and look at the fact that we are reallocating money from armed police officers to nonviolent responses. That response can still be triggered. It's still available.
Yeah.
And, we should be looking at, especially while crime is spiraling in our city, on the rise.
I agree with that. All right, cool. Let me yeah. That's cool, man. I agree with that. And the thing is that there's some not. I've heard that argument before, and a lot of people do like that argument. So that's cool. Appreciate your take on defund the police. Now let's talk about there's certain things that the city takes care of, right? We take a look at the federal; they take care of the mail. You take a look at the state, right? They you put people into nursing homes, and then you get an Emmy. We look we look at the city, yeah. What happens is that they take care of the police, education. Another thing, they take care of housing. And one of the big things that we hear about in complaints about New York City, corruption, is the real estate, intrusion into the local politics. You've heard about that, right?
Of course.
Okay, good.
To an extent.
All right. So, so regarding housing, right, Department of Buildings, things like that, what are your thoughts regarding reforms in that sector?
I think that, look, I'm not the most well-versed in the Department of Housing itself. Okay. I have experience interning for EXP Realty and before the merger, Exit Realty Landmark.
Okay, cool.
So I have some sort of experience there. But what I think is for special interests like real estate to be coming in here and influencing how our government works in ways that do not benefit everybody and the populations that we are meaning to serve, if it's not economically beneficial and ends up being harmful, then we should be stepping away from it. And the problem is that our elected officials are taking campaign contributions, are taking benefits, are sitting on their boards. That's the biggest issue that I have with it. And that's part of the reason why I would make the argument that a candidate that's not connected to any special interests like myself would be more beneficial in a situation like that.
The problem is like it's complicated, right? Because the developers come in and say, we're going to take this property, we're going to make it affordable housing. Then they, run some flim-flam, then they start reinventing things, right? Yeah. Because you get now what they do is they give a voucher for a doorman and for a gym, just some stupid shit. It doesn't really have to do with the real true value of where you're living or the neighborhood, right? Yeah. Then they play these other games. So it's a complex game with a lot of different angles, right? Yeah, you could take you could take Nitro, like public housing. That's another fight. So it would, even just if you specialize in this particular topic, right? Yeah, it's unlikely that you could cover the broad expanse of the different ways that this goes, right? So there's nothing wrong with understanding that we all have limited knowledge in this particular case, but your analysis of how to it shows us where you're going to prioritize things in terms of housing and that. So I appreciate it. It seems to be a compassionate view and a more liberal view and a left wing leaning. So that's cool, man. Hopefully that allows people to help make their decision. You may have special events coming up, things like that, right? People want to find out more about your campaign. Get updates about maybe an event you're having or event you're going to be speaking at. How can they find out this information? What's your social media? What's your website? Things like that.
So anybody can check us out at pan4nyc.com, and our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter handles are just pan4nyc.
And is that
So
4
you
with
could
the FOR or a number 4?
FOR.
Okay, Pan4NYC. Hey, that's a cool name, man. All right, cool, man. By the way, I
Yep.
used to be part of a group called Power Anthem Network. Yeah, we're still kind of part of that. We'll see. Yeah, that was also
Nice.
Pan. Yeah. Hey, now it's
wow.
time for the tough question right here. Let's get it on. Yeah. So look, a lot of people have worked different jobs out there, and the thing is that they are going to see they start to really understand the problems, right? If you're going to be a comptroller, the thing is that let's suppose that you're going to try to meet with, let's say, the sanitation department. You're trying to find out why the money's being misspent over there, or you feel like money's moving in funny directions, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you going to talk to? You're going to talk to the management, right? Probably, yeah, right. But the thing is that the management, are they ever going to say it's their faults?
You see,
You know what I mean? So the thing is that, right, people who are working on the ground might have a different opinion or view or understanding what's going on. That's what really helps to have experience in the industry, right? Yeah. So, but you can't have experience in all the industries. Please keep an ear to the ground, to the bottoms, as I like to call myself. But also, right? Yeah.
yeah.
The thing is that when you interact with these agencies, right? You said you worked in different agencies with the city, state, things like that, right? Yeah. Have you ever encountered corruption? Did you recognize it, right? Because corruption is one of the biggest problems in New York City. But no, a lot of people, right, and a startling amount of candidates can't recognize it when they see it, can't call it out, right? Yeah. When nobody's willing to point out corruption or do anything about it, that's where the corruption persists. So you have an opportunity right now. Yeah. Are you willing to name names? Are you willing to go after somebody? Where's the corruption at in New York City, Pan? Are you ready to rip it out by the throat? Where's it at, man? Go ahead.
So I think a big amount of our corruption is with how we spend on the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. On our subway.
Get him. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So what's
mean-
the story? Go ahead.
It is managed by the state, of course, but I mean, we are paying subsidies on our electricity and our water bills that do end up going to the MTA. And when they outsource it to contracting firms and they bring in consulting firms to say, well, we need to lay off X amount of workers. Well, the only thing is that you're hiring people to take the fall for cutting payroll, because they do not want to take the political responsibility and fallout for cutting jobs.
Did you hear about them cooking the books? Like a couple of years ago, they literally caught them creating 2 sets of books. That was a while ago. Yeah, you probably were in maybe middle school back then. But take a look. It wasn't that long ago. It really wasn't. Yeah. They straight up lied about their books. Straight up. Yeah. And the thing is that just coming from my direction, honestly, a lot of times. MTA, honestly, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it's been turned into a political slush fund for campaigns. That's why it's kind of existing there and money shuttling around. That's my knowledge. Oh, you know about that?
You're
going to look into it, yeah?
I'm not too knowledgeable about it. I'd be happy to look into it.
Look into it, man. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's a lot of because the reliance of a lot of leaders, right, mayors and controllers and all these other all down the line on managers. Right, yeah, the managers get away with a lot of crap. And remember, as the candidates flip in and out, yeah, there's certain staff that stays, and they have their own interests. And that's another whole shadow thing going on, man. You know what I mean? When you show up on day one, there's already vested interests that have been playing the game past. There's another candidate that went by him, and another candidate by one of them, and then they kept their little hustle going. You get what I mean? So best wishes, man. It's a crazy world out there, bro. But with a network like this, man, you know what I mean? I'm on your side, you know what I mean? God bless, you know what I mean? We won't see together on everything, but where we can, I guarantee I'm a hard worker, man. Yeah?
Yeah, 100%. I think that this isn't just MTA. This is with a lot of other city agencies, whether you want to talk about public housing, you want to talk about pretty much any major city agency that involves contracting. It's public knowledge that it's lucrative to contract with the government. It's a good living, and it's a good amount of money.
It's disgusting, too, yeah.
Politicians want to create more jobs. They want to create a lot more good-paying jobs. However, at the same time, however, at the same time, what we call C-suite executives, they end up raking in a bunch of money, and you really start questioning their what they're doing, and then you hire in consultants to do their exact job.
Yeah.
Which gets even more confusing because now those consultants now funnel money into your campaign. So that's the corruption that I usually think of instantly. But then you have more small scale corruption, like trying to rake in additional overtime way past
Yeah.
logical amounts,
Yeah.
and
Ridiculous.
things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also just culture in a massive government bureaucracy. You're a tiny ant
Yeah.
in the entire whole. You'd probably get away with it unless someone starts nitpicking it. Why does the MTA? Why did it used to have 5 different legal departments? We could consolidate that into one. You know, you have all of these sprawling systems. You question their necessity, and you wonder if you can reinvest it or redirect it into a place that would be more effective and more efficient, especially when debt is going to cripple my generation. And there have been literally questions raised about, would New York City go bankrupt a couple of months ago?
Hey,
And
man.
it's still a very valid question. Yeah.
That's real cool, man. I worked a lot with the Andrew Yang campaign. Did you work with the? I didn't see you working on the Andrew Yang campaign. I guess you work on other things, school stuff like that. It's cool, but just so you know, I'm actually I just organized an independent forum and debate for all independent third-party candidates in New York City. And just so you know, New York City is in an interesting place because the majority of the council seats will flip. You know about that, right? Yeah, a majority of city council seats will flip, meaning that this is a historic chance to change policy here in New York City. But guess what? It's not only happening at a city level; it's also happening at a national level. We just had the census, which means that many House of Representative districts will be redrawn. So if you're serious about making a change and you're planning about being on this in the long haul, as am I, I've been in this for 20 years. I'm gonna stick around, and if you stick around, I'm gonna be with you here in New York City. There's gonna be other opportunities coming up, right? Yeah, maybe if not this race, there's another race. You know what I mean? But hopefully you could win this one, but we'll see. You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
I remember I didn't win every race, but that doesn't mean I stopped working. I never stopped working. Yeah?
Never. We work hard and we grind,
That's what
and we make change in people's lives. That's what we do it for. Even if it's one single life,
yeah.
that's worth it.
So Alex, I'm gonna keep working with you, man. I'm looking forward to doing more with you. It's nice to see another Asian brother in the game, man. God bless. It's a rare fucking thing, man. You know the deal.
Yes, sir. Stay in contact.
God bless, brother. See you. Right. Thanks.
It's a pleasure.
It's a dark day in our nation when high-level authorities will seek to use every method to silence dissent. The truth must be told.
And if you want the truth, you need to check out independent media producers just like myself, DJ L7. You should subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notifications when I release a new video.
Truth of these
We are
words
on all
is
the major
beyond
platforms.
doubt.
That includes Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube. Unfortunately, we have definitely seen that these mainstream outlets will cave to corporate interests, so we encourage you to join our independently moderated communities of Reddit and Discord. We also encourage you to subscribe to us on BitChute and Daily Motion so you can see the content that YouTube doesn't want us to let you see. Hey, now it's time for the most important part of the video. That's right. It's time for us to tell you about the Taking Action Group. Do you need an activist? Or maybe there's no activists around willing to help you with your cause and you need to learn to become an activist. That's exactly why we're here. Every week we get up with people from across the nation, in fact even sometimes internationally, and we develop strategies and a game plan to address the issues that are affecting all of us. Every week myself from New York City and of course my co-host Lisa from Los Angeles provide a coast-to-coast perspective on what's going on in the country. If you want to donate to help out with expenses, travel, equipment, stuff like that, then I definitely appreciate it, and you can hit us off at Venmo or PayPal. Thanks a lot. Hey, by the way, we also have a merch store, so check it out. Oh my goodness, it seems like you've reached the end of the video, so make sure you check out some of our other videos, make sure you subscribe. This is your last chance to do so thanks a lot, and looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please comment below if you have any questions or issues you'd like me to address. And if you're an activist, the time to make things happen is now.